Okay, so.
Oops. Hey, everyone. Okay. No, no one's here. Now we're live. All right. Okay. So that was terrible. I'm so sorry, everybody. So we are new on the live YouTube stuff. So hopefully we're going to get a few more people in who are coming in. I see we have 2 people here. Sorry, guys. See, we're real, we're authentic, we screw it up. So I guess you have to choose the right camera before you go live. You can't change it midstream. But now we know. Okay, so we're going to start here. I'm going to go back to what I was talking about before, and we all right. Okay, everybody, here we go. All right, so I did a video last week called Don't Get Sued, and we had an incredible outpouring of people who responded to us. It was crazy. And I think we had over 75,000 views, and we had like 300 comments. And so what I wanted to do is a lot of the comments were kind of the same questions. And so I wanted to respond in a live video, which, thank you for coming. I wanted to respond in a live video to these questions. I wanted to see if you guys have more questions too. But if I told you in the comments that I was going to respond live, I have all those written out here. Some of you had really good comments bashing real estate agents, but that's totally fine because I'm more than happy to chat about that. So let me just review what the story was about. The story was about these sellers had in the listing description put that the windows were newer. This was just a regular listing description that says 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, things like that, in a beautiful location. And it just said newer windows. And so when the buyers went to the walkthrough, the sellers had all of this information for them, at the house. And it was all the receipts of everything. And they were trying to be really good sellers. And so, they left this packet of receipts, and the buyer opened it up, looked at it and said, well, these aren't newer. They're 8 years old. And the seller said, well, those are newer. And the buyer said, no, they're not. We thought they were less than 5 years. That's what newer means to us. And the sellers were like, okay. And so then the sellers and the buyers go to the closing table, and they're both actually there. This was pre-COVID. They were at the closing table together. And the buyer said, we demand a $10,000 price reduction on the cost of the house. And the sellers were like, for what? He said, because you misrepresented the windows. And they said, we said they were newer. He said, newer means less than 5 years. And so the sellers said, forget it. We're not giving you 10,000 off. Go pound sand. We're going to relist the house. Well, now I've never had this happen before, actually. There have been very, very few times that a deal falls apart at the closing table or a buyer loses earnest money. It just doesn't happen very often. So the buyers got up, walked away, and the sellers sort of thought that everybody was bluffing, but they weren't. And so the buyers ended up leaving. And the sellers had to put their house back up on the market. So now I got a lot of questions about the real estate agent's role in this. So I'm going to tell you, I did not have this house listed myself at the time this happened. I got it afterwards and subsequently sold their house. So, when we look at whose fault this is or what happened, there's a lot deeper of a story in here than just, the buyers walking away. First of all, I think we can probably say that the buyers, were probably looking for something like this. Like they were trying to get to the closing table to get money off, and they didn't think that the sellers would actually risk not closing. So they thought they had the upper hand. But then when the sellers threw down, the buyers were like, oh gosh, so they had to stand up and had to stand strong. I don't know if they intended to sue them. I don't know what their intention was. I don't know if they if they had gotten the 10,000 off, if they would have closed, I think they would have actually. But now since the seller said, forget it, you know, the buyers had to stay strong. So, there's a lot of questions that we've actually had. The main question that a lot of people, and I wrote up everything, and if you have questions while I'm talking about this, please put them in the chat. I want this to be engaging, interacting, and as you can see, this is completely live and unscripted. And yes, technical problems. So I appreciate all of you coming to this one rather than the other one. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So one of the conversations that a lot of people wrote was that this is as is. And it should have been the house as is. And you guys, I did a video on as is. And maybe Warwick, who is helping me behind the scenes, can go ahead and pop that into the chat down below. As is, that's not really what as is means. As is does not mean that you can hide something. Okay. So from the buyer's perspective, they thought that it was hidden. That's not really what as is means. As is means that they are taking the condition of the house in that condition. They are taking the home in the condition of the house, basically with faults and everything. So, yes, it means as is, but if they believe that there was fraud, then that's why it's not really as is. So when you're filling out your property disclosures and you're saying the house is as is, you have to indicate every single thing on the disclosure. Even if there's a problem with it, you can't hide something. So like, let's say you get water in your basement and you don't put it on the property disclosure, and then you sell the house, but you sold it as is. That's not okay. Like, the buyers can say that was fraud. So the buyers were saying that it was fraud because they said that they did not tell them the actual age of the home. Now, could you say as is? Yes, because they had an inspection and the inspector walked through the house and obviously said there was nothing wrong with the windows. The buyers were saying that there was fraud. So that's why as is doesn't count in those situations. And I want you to remember that, because if you're thinking of selling as is and you've hidden some type of a defect, you can get in big trouble for that. That is when they can come after you. So while they didn't really hide this, that was the reason that they said they were going to sue the sellers. So that's kind of a big, the as is conversation is kind of a big deal. So, all right. I'm putting together a list of improvements we've made over 40 years, and now I'm afraid I won't get the exact date of the install correct. Okay, so this is what needs to happen. This is what we do actually now with all of our homes. We have a sheet, a mechanical sheet, and it's called Mechanicals and Updates. And what it has, and work, maybe there's a PDF file or a link of one that we have somewhere. I don't know if you can throw PDF files into that chat or a link of something. I know you'll work on this and figure it out. You can see what we actually put together. And the PDF file that we give to everybody has the ages. Now, it's very important when the buyers are writing an offer, they see that the roof is 2009. The roof is approximately 2015, or the roof is unknown. So that's why it's important just to state it out. Don't worry about getting the exact ages correct. But if you say your water heater is only 5 years old and it's actually 15 years old, that is not accurate. So you can't say approximately 5 years old. You would have to say approximately 10 to 15 years old. That's fine. Or unknown is fine. So it doesn't matter if you know the dates and the ages. It matters what you put on that sheet. So if they had put 5 years old on that sheet rather than saying newer, 5 years old is different than newer, right? So they never said they were 8 years old. They said they were newer. Newer is an interpretation of the buyers and the sellers. So that's why, Kay, you really shouldn't worry about, being so specific. You want to be general, and you want to say approximately or about or between the ages of or unknown. Definitely you can say unknown, and then the buyer knows that you just don't know what the ages are. Okay, thanks for that. I'm going to go into some of these other questions. So, somebody wrote, 8 years old aren't newer. I think the realtor has some liability here for advertising that. The buyer sounds like an investor. I wouldn't sell to anyone who wasn't going to live in the house, and this person would countersue. So As far as the realtor having liability here, there really isn't anything the realtor has liability for in this situation because newer can be determined to be 3 years, 5 years, or as somebody wrote in my comments, how old is the house? Well, anything anything newer than that is newer. So that's an interpretation. That's why you need to make sure that you're clear in, what it is. Now, as agents, we can only get our information from the sellers. And so whatever goes into that listing, we cannot verify. So if they said they had their water heater replaced 10 years ago, we're going on their word. So as far as an agent being responsible for that, that's we have no control over what our sellers actually tell us. Now, should it actually have been lined up to say exactly what the dates were? No question at all whatsoever. So, that's where, but remember, I told you this was pre-COVID. So this was like 5 years ago. We've since enhanced our steps and processes based upon things like this. And at this point in my career, I would never say newer anymore. But that's why you want to get an experienced agent who's had a lot of, issues that they've seen, a lot of red flags that they've seen. So with that, a couple things, and I'm going to keep going on with some of this. Before I continue, if you guys want my seller playbook, if you don't have it, I'm assuming a lot of you are already on this call because you do have the seller playbook. But if you want the seller playbook, Work is going to put this in here. And the seller playbook has all of the low cost, high return updates that you absolutely should do to your house before you move. A lot of it is about repairing things. Those are the updates that I'm considering repairing. And it also has a lot of the high cost, low return updates you should not make to your house. And I'm telling you, when I put this out there, I am saving sellers tens of thousands of dollars by just downloading this and honestly just by talking to me about it. So Work is going to put in the chat the seller's playbook. Thanks, Catherine. Catherine says your seller playbook has been very useful. Yeah, so that's, I want to make sure you guys have that before we keep going on. Okay, and Work, there it is right there. So go ahead and click on that. You'll get the seller playbook. I send you a couple follow-up videos. I'm not high pressure at all for anything. I'm just giving you information. And you know what I'm going to be doing is I know we did version 1 of it right now. The seller's playbook is version 1. Version 2 is actually going to have the whole inspection checklist as well. So if you've already downloaded, I'll make sure that you get an updated one that talks about the inspection, checklist and what you need to do prior to your inspection and how you handle those things. Okay, so do you have to include all the updates you have done over the years? You don't have to. I mean, it helps to say that you've taken care of your house. It's a very nice thing to do. But you certainly don't have to. It's just a benefit for the buyers, really. Okay. I got some good comments here. So somebody said, and if you're here, let me know. Somebody said, I don't mean to criticize, but that's what you've learned from this clear communication. What I learned is that sociopaths exist and you need to protect yourself. Those buyers were dishonest parasites. At the first sign of difficulty, all discussion should have been terminated. Surely there must be some contractual clauses which can be signed prior to protect yourself from predatory buyers like this. It's tough. I will tell you, like the story that I told is rare. Like this is the only time I've ever seen this happen. But the reason I told this story, yes, clear communication obviously is what I'm telling you right now. If they had said the windows were 5 years old, there would not have been any issues. Newer and 5 years old are totally different things. And so you have to be careful and when you're working with buyers because they view things differently than you view them. And I always, when I get an offer or I get a contract for my sellers from a buyer, I can usually tell if that buyer is going to be difficult based on how many questions the buyer's agent has asked me. So, can you protect yourself from people like this? And this is what I said in the video is it's really about the red flags. Okay. So what are red flags? And I want you to really think about, so somebody who is super, super difficult, before they've written an offer. And I'm telling you, like, you know, we had a condo that went on the market over the weekend And actually last week, it was listed at 200,000. We had 60 showings in 5 hours, 60. We had 20 offers. And so the buyers who were asking questions about if you could smoke on the balcony, I mean, I was like, we need a buyer that's simple and easy, and a buyer that's saying, oh, I need all of these things before I buy the house. Anybody who has a lot of questions, it's not bad necessarily, but it means they're very, very detail oriented. They're very, very particular. So when they're asking you a lot of questions, they want the receipts before they write an offer. They want, to know exactly how much the electric is. And you're like, I don't know, it's 150 a month. Well, do you know exactly? Like, those are people who are so detail oriented. And those are the people who are going to say newer is not 5 years. Newer is not 8 years. Newer is 5 years. Those are the people, so is there anything you can do about people like this? Is, work with your agent to find out, are they good buyers? Sometimes I have agents who are really great agents and they write very, very clean offers. So when you get a lot of extras, they're asking for a lot of stuff. It might be a red flag. Now, with these buyers, they were difficult through the inspection, but they were like, okay, we can do this. It's fine. And I'm telling you, this story is like rare. So I don't want you all to now go to your agents and be like, well, I saw this woman on YouTube and she was telling us about, her sellers got sued. This is rare, like totally rare. But what I want you to think about is, just because you don't think you did something wrong doesn't mean that you can't be sued. Okay, because I've been sued as well. I have another video on that too, that I was sued for something that the judge dismissed. I mean, we took it 2 years into the court system, but it still cost a lot of time and effort, money, and it was painful and is stressful. So, the sellers at the table probably should have said, what is it worth for us to be done and over? I want you all to write this down right now. Seriously. I want you to write this down. And I want you to keep repeating this. And again, remember that woman on YouTube? She said, we need to repeat to ourselves, what is it worth for us to be done and over? What is it worth for you to have no more showings? What is it worth for you to move on? What is it worth for you to have an assurances that you know where you're going to be? Is it worth $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $25,000? It might be. It might be. It might be worth it for you to say, what is it worth to be done and over? And that's what the sellers should have said at the table. And they should have said, you know what? We're done. We're out. $10,000 is not going to make or break us. We want this to be done, because then they had to put their house back up on the market, and then they had to have showings, and then they had the stress, and they'd already moved. It was a very stressful time to them. So if I could have said to them, what is it worth for you to be done and over? Is it worth $10,000? They probably would have said yes. And I would have said, just take it then. Just do it. Okay. So I think we have some questions. How far, and if I missed something in here, let me know and type it again. How far back do I provide maintenance records for appliances, ovens, washers, and mechanicals, HVAC, septic, well, backup generator? So I don't think you have to provide any records unless they ask for it. Okay. So let's pretend that those sellers hadn't provided those receipts for the windows. They wouldn't have been in this situation. So you want to, sometimes over giving too much information is not always good. I will usually say, the maintenance was done every year. And they're like, oh, who did the maintenance? Oh, so-and-so did maintenance on the HVAC. I mean, that's about all you really need to do. You do not have to provide receipts. And even if they ask for this stuff, it doesn't mean you have to do it. Okay, so I want to make sure that you understand, you do not have to necessarily jump over backwards for these people. Is that give them reasonable information. If they say, we want all the costs for your electric for the last year, then you say, okay, well, here's how much I spent, around, $1,000. And they say, we want everything. I'm not giving you everything. And maybe they walk away. Okay. Oh, yay. We hit 4,000 subscribers. Yay. Awesome. Right now, while we're on here. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, I guess that's my pitch. Go ahead, please subscribe. This is actually how we keep getting pushed out in front of people. And as you can tell, we're pretty real and authentic because we don't even know how to really use YouTube. Well, Warwick does. He's my backhand, my right hand back of the house guy. I don't, as obviously you guys could tell because I couldn't figure out that you have to turn on your camera before you start the live session and not after. Okay. So please subscribe. And also, if you joined late, make sure you download the Seller's Playbook. The link is up top about all the updates you should be making. Okay. Yep. The most difficult demanding buyers tend to be investors or flippers. So those are also the people coming really, really low. So yes, but once they buy the house, they're the easiest because they don't care the condition. However, they are the worst because they write really low offers. So if you are thinking that somebody who's an investor is going to buy your property, most likely they won't unless you want to take a huge, huge discount on that. So you need to make sure that if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to have an investor come and buy the property, well, you really probably want an end user who's going to do the work. That's going to be better. But yes, investors are very difficult because this is their job. This is what they do. And if it's not financially feasible, they are just going to walk away. Okay. Are there any recommended strategies to negotiate realtor fees, or is 6% the going rate? Oh, wow. Okay, so I did a video, which I know Warwick's going to find right now after reading that, about the NAR lawsuit and commission. So first of all, there is no standard commission across the country, across your area, across a brokerage. Okay, that is what the NAR lawsuit was about. And this basically is saying that, so it's a long story and I do the whole thing in my other video, but it talks about how realtors and the NAR Association were sued, and this was in October, and it was a class action and they actually won. And so NAR and a couple of brokerages are liable for $1.8 billion. Billion, yes, billion. And the reason why is that they're saying that sellers have felt forced to pay out buyer commissions, and they didn't know that they were paying the buyer agent commission. I mean, this is a long, long story. So you can watch that video if you want. And the reality is that what made it very clear is that we as agents are telling you there is no set commission. You can pay out whatever you want. Agents should negotiate. In addition, if you're a seller, okay, you are typically going to pay the buyer's agent because the buyer's agents are not getting paid by their buyers. It's a long, complicated story about how this is going to change the industry. But the issue is that if you do not pay out a buyer's agent, will a buyer's agent actually show your home if they're not going to get paid? So you also can negotiate that. You can choose not to pay out a buyer's agent and take the risk that a buyer's agent may not show the property. And then what's going to happen is you are going to have buyers coming directly to your agent. And the buyers who are coming directly to your agent are the ones who are going to be most difficult because they are the ones who are trying to save. And they're the ones who don't think that they need an agent. Now, that is, I've seen it. Now, it doesn't mean always, but it means they're not educated. They don't know how to write up a contract. They don't know any of this. So when you pay out a buyer's commission, you're going to get more competition. So there is absolutely negotiating abilities with your agents. And I have reasons that I negotiate my commission. I have a set commission that I have, and then I'll negotiate if it's like a past client or if it's they've referred me or they're buying and selling for me. If they're really broke, I usually will also talk to them about that commission too. If they really just have no money at the closing table. And sometimes if I really, really want the listing, like if it's a high profile listing, or maybe I might get a lot of leads from it or something like that, that's worth it for me to take a lower commission. So absolutely, you should be talking to your real estate agent about negotiating the commission. I'm sure any agents on here right now are like, what are you saying? But it's true. I mean, this is just the industry. The industry is totally and completely going to change, but there are agents out there who are worth their money. But you just need to see how they negotiate. Now, that's another thing I want to tell you is that if your agent, when they're negotiating, gives away their commission right away, and will you reduce your commission? And they're like, okay, that's typically how they're going to negotiate for you. Okay, so keep that in mind, that if just because you want a lower price and then they negotiate, well, they might not be great negotiators. So just keep that in mind. Okay. All right. And Catherine had the same question. Great. Maybe the buyer would have settled for 5,000 to 7,000. The agent could have considered negotiating on the behalf of the client. Okay, so Great point. In Illinois, it's an attorney state. So I don't know. Do you guys know if you're in an attorney state? Illinois is an attorney state. There's only like 5 maybe attorney states, but of course it's Illinois, so that's an attorney state, which makes everything's more difficult. Um, so what happens is once you go under contract, the attorneys handle everything and it's a legal process. Real estate agents cannot get involved at that point. I mean, we're there to help and support, but this is a legal issue at that point. Now, in other states that don't have attorneys, usually the title company will do it. And in that case, yes, the real estate agent is probably doing more than they are in the attorney states. Again, Illinois. Okay. How about selling your home at auction as is sale and just be done with it? Sure. So I actually have like a whole graphic I've done on this that I'm doing some more videos on. So the less stress you want, because that's going to be super low stress, the less stress, right? Less stress, the lower the price. Okay. So if you want a high price, typically you're going to need high stress. And high stress means getting your house ready, making sure it looks good, making sure you update. So I usually start with what is the stress level that you want and what is the money that you want? If you want a lot of money, can't go to auction. You're just not going to get it. There are investors there. Again, kind of goes back to my whole premise about the investors who are trying to, get a steal on the house. Did that help, Rob? Okay, I'm going to just have a drink here. Did I miss any questions in there? Because I've got more here that people wrote about how bad real estate agents are, which is fine. I don't care because I know I'm good. Hold on. Okay. So seems like this is on the inspector. Should have told them the age of the windows. So inspectors, the point of inspectors is to kind of call out red flags, and to share information with them, about the house. Um, when inspectors get paid to find issues. And so, there are some inspectors who are good and some inspectors who are bad. So it's hard for you to say that the inspector should have called out the age of the windows because the inspector probably doesn't know the age of the windows. The inspector went to the inspection looking to see if they opened and closed. Did they have any wood rot? Were they fogged? They weren't looking to say how old they were. And the inspector probably would have said they're newer. Right? Because 8 years is still newer than being original to the house. So, inspectors, every inspector is going to come up with something different, but I want you to remember that inspectors don't find everything and multiple inspectors will find all different things. So, yes, the inspector could have come up with something like that, but that wouldn't be typical for them to say how old the windows were. Okay. How about further proof that once there's a real problem, the realtors are nowhere to be seen? Well, that's not really true, but I get that. I get that. Listen, I think, the issue with this, which was so shocking, was that the buyers actually engaged an attorney and sued them for something that was completely full of garbage because they weren't hurt by this. I mean, but the problem is that once the sellers got sued, they had to engage an attorney because they don't know what to do. Do they just not show up to court? Do they show up to court? So once they engaged an attorney and had to write a response letter, it starts ticking. It starts ticking away. And that's what happened with me when I was sued. And I was sued for something that the buyers, it wasn't even my client. I was the listing agent, and the buyers sued me rather than their buyer's agent. And the issue was that they believed that I, lied about something. They didn't sue the sellers either. They sued me. And the reason they sued me was because I have errors and omissions insurance through my brokerage, and all real estate agents are going to have that. So they believed that, and he was an attorney too. So you need to be careful when you're working with attorneys or people who have free legal, counsel. So what happened is that he sued me because he thought I was just going to turn it over to my E&O insurance and they were going to settle. Now that would have cost me $5,000 deductible, which he knew because he was in the industry. So he knew, didn't matter what it was, and everything he had in there was completely made up. So he sued me, and it was shocking because he didn't sue the sellers, he sued me. And I had just changed brokerages, so I didn't have that brokerage defending me. Also, my husband is an attorney, and so you don't want to go up against my against my husband when somebody is suing me. And so he didn't care. He was going down with the ship. And so the buyers did not realize that we had free legal support on my side. And so it went 2 full years. I mean, he did actually track for his time. He would have charged a client probably about $50,000, and we didn't even go to trial. So he was willing to fight this because of he's my husband, and the buyers didn't realize that, and it eventually got thrown out of court. But we went to we had to do depositions, and we went to an arbitration with the judge, which the judge threw out. But then he challenged it again. And then we had to continue down the path, even though we'd already won an arbitration. And we continued down the path. And then we finally got it completely dismissed. And we had asked for attorney's fees, and the judge refused. So a lot of people have commented, well, you need to sue, countersue, and then ask for fees. It doesn't work like that. I mean, that's not how it works. So if I hadn't had this attorney situation, we would have settled. Right. So it doesn't matter whether you're right or you're wrong. Anybody can be sued for anything. And so, that goes back to the question that I had for you guys about, or the statement that I wanted you to write down. If you guys remember that, it's that, what is it worth to you to be done and over? What is it worth to you to be done and over, right? And that is, that's what would have happened with us. Is I would have said, what is it worth for me to be done and over? It probably would have been worth $5,000-$10,000, and the insurance company would have just settled. So this guy could have walked away with $20,000 probably, and I only would have been out of pocket my deductible if the E&O was covering it. So that was kind of a long conversation for, I don't even know what question that was. Okay, good. Rob, I answered your question. Okay, if during inspection the radon test comes back at higher than 4.0, then do I have to install a radon mitigation system before selling, or can I give a credit to the buyer? I hate radon. Like I think it's terrible. I think it's a scam, but that's in Illinois. We have it all the time. In Florida, I don't know. They never test for it. But with that being said, I believe it's a gas. I believe it probably could do harm, but I believe that it's gotten out of control. So there is, for those of you who don't know, or it's not in your area. In fact, I don't even know who has radon in their states and who doesn't. In Illinois, you absolutely have it because, again, it's Illinois. So if they put in this device in the house, and it can have radon even if you don't have a basement, because I've had homes that have not had basements that have high radon. It tests the gas inside the house. Okay, so it tests the gas, and it says if it's above 4.0, it means it's dangerous. But if it's 4.0 and lower, it's not dangerous. Now, with that being said, when buyers see that you have high radon, they want it remediated. Now, most buyers, especially the young millennials with little children, are very, very afraid of radon. Okay. Now, the thing is these sellers who have been in these homes for 20, 30, 40 years are like, what? My home isn't safe? What are you talking about? I don't care. I'm just going to give them a credit. I'm not putting this in. But the buyers are like, no, we have to have it in before we move into the house. So you can give a credit. Typically, these young buyers want it done before they move in. Now, the problem with radon is that you have this big, gigantic pipe that comes out of the house, and it's on the outside of the house. Well, the sellers then get all worked up because they have to choose the location for the pipe. Usually I'll say, you know what, they just wanted you to remediate it, put it wherever the company says, because if then you go to the buyers and you say, where do you want that pipe? They're going to give you 10 different choices. Oh, we want it here. We want it here. Oh, we don't want it there. And then this is the purpose of you doing it versus giving a credit. So when you want to give a credit, because you don't want to deal with it, you say, we're going to give you the credit so you can deal with it, so you can put the pipe where you want. Otherwise, we're going to make the decision. It's better just to give a credit and be done and over with it, because if you put the pipe in the wrong position, they might come back and be mad, and then it's a big argument. But radon, yes, if it's over 4.0, you either need to remediate or give a credit. I know. I'm sorry. You guys can put in your comments about what you think about radon too. Had a great home inspector. He used heat loss and cooling air temperature detection tools to test the window and doors for drafts. Yes, that is really can happen. And also, inspectors have these like things, I don't know, this electronic thing. You stick it up to the wall and you can tell if the wall behind it is wet. So in Illinois, because we have a lot of basements, they use that quite a bit. Also, I have a really, really good sense of smell, and I can usually smell if something's wet. If you are putting your house on the market and maybe your agent or somebody says, like, it smells a little damp down here, you can get an inspection company to come and do that for you. I was talking literally just right before this about pre-inspections, doing a pre-inspection on your house. If you want to do a pre-inspection, you can. I don't always recommend it. Every inspector is going to find something new. Every inspector is going to, get their money. They're going to make their money is really what it is. So every inspector will find something different. Now, if you want to do a pre-inspection, that's totally fine. But you have to remember is that if there's any disclosure items, you do need to repair them or disclose them. So, not everything's a disclosure item. Water, foundation, safety, termites, things like that. Those are all disclosure items. But, like a door falling off the hinges, that's not a disclosure item. Windows that don't open, that's a disclosure item in Illinois. Do the windows all work? No, this one you can't open. Well, then it's a disclosure item. So before you do a pre-inspection, you want to think about the ramifications of it. And just because you do one does not mean that the buyers aren't going to come back with 1,000 other things that they want done. Okay. So that's really, really, important that you think clearly before you get that pre-inspection, and ask your agent about that as well. Also, if you guys need an agent, I know agents across the whole country. In addition, what I do is if somebody needs an agent across the country, and this is free of charge to you, there's no fee at all. I will actually go and do research to figure out if they're the right agent. I can tell just based on their online profiles and based upon the wording that they're using, the team that they have, how much marketing they're doing. I can tell you if somebody's going to be a good fit or not. Work is going to put into our chat here. If you want an agent, go ahead and fill out this link for find an agent, and I will get you an agent. If some of you guys are waiting for me to find an agent, and it's because I actually do go in, and I was out of town all week last week, but it is because I do go in and I really look at these people. And I will give you 3 agents to choose from. And I want them to call you. I want them to email you. I want you to see how you feel about them. If I just give you one, then you might not like that person, or you may not think that's a good person. If I give you 3, you typically are going to fit with that person. You'll get 3 different costs, three different price suggestions as well. So if you want an agent, go ahead and fill that out. Again, we also have the seller's playbook, and please subscribe if you're here and you are not subscribed. Okay. Do I have any other questions? I'm going to move on. Sold many homes and had good luck just giving a credit instead of fixing a problem. Yes, please. It's easier to give a credit and be done and over. And remember, what is it worth for you to be done and over? I should have a shirt. I don't know, that may come off kind of funny. Okay. Let's see. Somebody said all you need to do is pull up records from the building department at City Hall for permits. I mean, you could do that. Somebody could do that if they really wanted. That's a lot of work for, when you can see, are they working or not? Okay. And then, yeah, somebody said the sellers in this case tried to be nice by providing info on work done previously. No good deed goes unpunished. So they should have kept the packet and thrown it away after the sale. Right, that's what they should have done. This is a much needed heads up showing how horrible some folks can behave. It's so true. Anyone can file a lawsuit, and if it goes to trial, the jury will come to some conclusion. It may not be the conclusion that you want. So that's what I just want you to keep in mind. Okay, so I've kind of gone through the gist of all of the comments in there. A lot of it was about as is. You want to make sure that as is does not negate fraud. And that's what the buyers were saying, is that the sellers were fraudulent. Now, were they? I mean, of course, a jury could say, or a judge could say, well, newer is, newer than the house was built. So that's an interpretation. If you do have some type of, issue in the house, it's better to disclose it and put it out there, even if it's something like, even if you get a leak in the basement or there's a window that doesn't work. If you disclose it, it's fine. They're writing an offer seeing that disclosure. So that's really important. You want to make sure that they write the offer seeing that disclosure, knowing that the window doesn't open, knowing that there's a water leak in the basement. And they may choose not to write, but then when they come back and ask for you to fix it or give a credit, you say, you wrote an offer knowing these were issues. So that's the benefit of putting everything out there. Okay, do we have any more questions? You guys have any more questions, any thoughts? I can help lots of people. Like I said, finding an agent, more than happy to chat with you guys if you want to book a call with me. But I would love to see your faces and have conversations with you. Work and I are talking about doing, maybe like weekly lives, maybe, twice a month, just kind of seeing what people are talking about. I get a lot of questions about paint colors, trim, colors, things like that, updating kitchens. And if you know me well now, you know what my least favorite update is. And that's why you should download that buyer's or the seller's playbook. My least favorite update. Does anybody know what it is? I bet Catherine knows what it is because Catherine's on my stuff. I know that. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. Least favorite update. Replacing countertops. I hate that. The reason why is because the countertops, people are replacing countertops because the cabinets are old, the kitchen is old. And when you spend a few $1,000s on the countertops, you still have a kitchen that's old. So like countertops are the most unproductive, least rewarding update that you can do for your house when you're going to sell. Oh, thanks. Just did a Zoom meeting with Katie. Highly recommend. Thanks. So that is the worst. The best is paint. Paint, you get your money out. It helps your house sell quicker. The other thing that's really good is staging. And you guys need to have a really good agent that you're working hand in hand with. I think I don't see any more questions for you guys, but I want to keep it open for you guys and make sure you subscribe. Follow my videos. We got a lot of videos sort of in the background that we're working on right now. I feel like we're getting better at our content. If you guys have suggestions, feel free to email me. Everything is on the link there on my page. More than happy to help you with a seller's playbook. Make sure you download that link, subscribe, or if you need an agent. Okay. And again, I apologize for the technical difficulty today, but we did it and people were here and you guys are awesome. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate everyone's support and your engagement with me back and forth because I'm responding to those comments too. I mean, that is me. No one else is doing that. So it took me a couple days last week because I was out of town, but I appreciate all of you. Thanks for watching. If you really want, more information on anything, shoot me an email. I'll do a video on it. All right, everybody. Thanks. Have a great day.